As a documentary filmmaker, how do you find your voice as an artist? How do you go from copying others to being the filmmaker who others want to emulate? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer those questions by sharing a simple 3-step process to help you unlock your personal creativity and move you closer to the filmmaker only you can be. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Austin Meyer. I'm a documentary filmmaker, National Geographic Explorer, and on this channel, I share the field-tested skills, mindsets, and lessons that have helped me on my journey as a documentary filmmaker. Before recording this video, I wrote down a definition of what creativity means to me. I thought I would ground the conversation, so here it is. Creativity is making the best out of what you have. It's recognizing your unique gifts, abilities, and visions and bringing them to life regardless of the fear you may feel in your heart. Creativity is patience, showing up every day and trying to improve at your craft little by little. Creativity is seeing opportunities where others see none. It is attention to detail and attention to what lights your fire. Creativity is trying and failing over and over again, and a dedication to get back up and try again. Creativity is the journey of finding your own voice and being brave enough to share it with the world. I genuinely believe that everyone is creative. And I also believe that no matter where you are on your filmmaking journey, based on who you are and your creative voice, there's a story out there that you can tell better than anyone else. The way I like to think about how to access that creativity is this. Everyone has a treasure chest inside of them. This treasure chest is where your creative ideas and energy are stored. And when you want to create a film, when you want to do something original, you have to open that treasure chest and boom, there it is. However, in all of us, there is a dragon that guards the treasure chest. This dragon is what blocks you from accessing your creativity. And it comes in the form of insecurity, distraction, lack of self-belief, perfectionism, and fear of the opinions of others. Every one of us has a treasure chest, and every one of us has a dragon. But some of us have made a habit of fighting that dragon to get to the treasure chest. In fact, we've gotten past the dragon so many times that nowadays when we see the dragon, we're like, bring it on. And we brush it aside easily. Others of us have not made a habit of fighting the dragon. It's intimidating. It takes too much energy. And so when we see the dragon, we just run away. And the dragon just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The good news is that there are proven strategies to start pushing past that dragon and getting to the treasure chest. For me, I've been trying to lean into these strategies every day as I try to go from being a cog in the filmmaking machine to someone who is indispensable. I mean, I know that if I view myself as just another cinematographer without a point of view or perspective of my own, I'm replaceable. If I'm not available, a client will just hire the next person in line. But over the past few years, I've really been focusing my energy on discovering what sets me apart. What is my creative voice? What can I bring to the table that makes me indispensable? Or in other words, someone who would be missed if I was gone. And it's paid off. Focusing on this 3-step process, I've built deeper and longer-term relationships with media outlets such as National Geographic, commercial clients like the New York Stock Exchange, and collaborators who view me as more than just someone who holds a camera. So let's dive into the 3-step process. And the first step in finding your unique voice as a filmmaker is to be obvious. There's this idea that creativity stems from thinking outside the box. And thinking outside the box means going for crazy and unusual ideas. But here's the thing. Striving for original ideas takes us away from the unique perspective that each and every one of us has. For example, I have this friend in my improv theater performance group that I'm in named Anwar. The first time I rehearsed with Anwar, I was just blown away by his creativity. The things he said, the worlds he brought to life on stage, they were fascinating to me. Sci-fi universes, fantasy tales. I kept thinking to myself, how does he come up with this stuff? So one day I asked him, how do you come up with this stuff? And he was like, I don't know, I'm just doing and saying whatever my mind gives me. Well, it turns out that Anwar loves fantasy books and anime and sci-fi, writes his own fan fiction. When we were improvising, he was just saying what comes to his mind. He's being obvious, but to everyone else watching, it seems so innovative. Okay, so this sounds simple, right? Here's the thing, it's not. All of us filmmakers have an idea of what a documentary film should look like. of what a commercial should look like, what a social media video should look like. And so what ends up happening is we repress the obvious thing that comes to mind as not good enough or not professional enough, and we conform to what we think a film should look like. Or we stretch for the same out-of-the-box ideas that everyone else is conjuring up. I'm here to say that if you want to be creative, be like Anwar. Be obvious. Do what comes natural to you, what is apparent to you, what lights your fire. Your unique perspective on a story will be a revelation to someone else. Instead of thinking outside the box, think inside your box. Look more carefully. As Proust said, the real voyage of discovery lies not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. I want to bring this concept home with one more quick anecdote. So, on the Austin Meyer Podcast, I once interviewed an incredible artist named Maya Resnick. And stay with me here, because looking outside of the filmmaking world is one of my favorite and I find most valuable ways to learn in the filmmaking world. So I was asking her about becoming an artist, and she pointed me to this one moment that really changed things for her. She was a junior at UC Berkeley and was in a figure drawing class. At the time, she viewed herself as just a hobbyist. Art was a calming hobby, not a career path. She didn't think she could draw well, she didn't think she could paint well, but she liked taking the classes. So on this one day, when she was drawing a nude model in class, she was really struggling. She was doing her best to draw this person exactly as they were, the perfect torso, the perfect thigh, and she was meeting all this resistance in herself. She didn't feel like she could draw this model in a realistic way. But then out of the corner of her eye, she saw this other student in the class. She was drawing vigorously, and Maya was fixated on her, wondering what she was creating. So when that student got up and went to the bathroom, Maya went over to her canvas and was stunned by what she saw. The painting was gestural and abstract. You could still see the figure's body, but it was almost falling apart on the page. When Maya recalled this moment, she told me,
and I remember just like my heart started beating faster, and I fell in love with her and what she did for me that day. I think she gave me permission, not that you need permission to be who you are, but she gave me permission to not be tight. It activated a part of me where I then started, when I would go to museums and galleries, I didn't care if I didn't like the things that everyone around me was liking. I would go and look at the Guston paintings and the work that really made me feel a certain way. And I think that's where I realized, well, that's what's important. It's making work that makes me feel a certain way and hopefully makes the viewer feel a certain way.
Well, today Maya is a renowned abstract painter whose work is showcased all around the world. In that moment, she learned to tap into her own voice, to her own sensibilities, to her own obvious. Trusting and being obvious unleashed her creativity in ways that are changing lives. And you can do the same with your films. Even if it's not what most films on Netflix look like, what seems obvious and delightful to you? Run towards that with your camera in hand. Now, once you've started to lean into what is obvious to you, regardless of what other people are doing, you can then move on to part 2 of the process, and that is to make a mess. Make lots of messes. I think there's this perception of creativity that comes from the archetype of the artistic genius, like a filmmaker who's just got it. They want a brilliant and groundbreaking idea or film, and they just conjure it out of thin air pretty much. Or it's someone who takes all these neat linear steps to making a film, and then boom, they make an award winner. Well, for 99.99% of people, including me, this is not at all how it works. Creativity is a mess. The act of filmmaking is a mess. You have to make a mess. You have to embrace the mess. And not only do you have to make a mess, you have to normalize messing up. Think about how kids play. I have 2 nieces and 2 nephews. I watch them color, I watch them play with Legos, I watch them dance, I watch them make sculptures, I watch them cook. They make complete messes, and it's mayhem. And it's really striking to me, not only because it makes me realize how clean and orderly the process gets when we're older, but also because there is never one thought from my nephews and nieces given to these questions. Is what I made perfect? Y'all, perfectionism kills creativity. It destroys it. I see it all the time from filmmakers. They're obsessed with doing things perfectly, of getting the perfect shot, the perfect quote, the cleanest audio, and perfect edit. And I feel this too. And what happens is that fear of not being perfect prevents all of us from creating anything at all. Author Anne Lamott describes perfectionism like this. In this quote, she talks about writing, but I'm going to replace the word writing with filmmaking. She says, I think perfectionism is based on the obsessive belief that if you run carefully enough, hitting each stepping stone just right, you won't have to die. The truth is that you will die anyway, and that a lot of people who aren't even looking at their feet are going to do a whole lot better than you and have a whole lot more fun while they're doing it. Perfectionism will ruin your filmmaking, blocking inventiveness and playfulness and life force. Perfectionism means that you try desperately not to leave so much mess to clean up, but clutter and mess show us that life is being lived. Clutter is wonderfully fertile ground. You can still discover new treasures under all of those piles. Clean things up, edit things out, fix things, get a grip. Tidiness suggests that something is as good as it's gonna get. Tidiness makes me think of held breath, of suspended animation, while filmmaking needs to breathe and move. Being perfect is so much pressure. Don't worry about being perfect. Make a mess. When you do this, you'll make a lot more films. Sure, some of them might not be on your website or portfolio, but at some point, creating a great film is a numbers game. If you want to make a great film, whatever that means to you, start by making a lot of films. If you want to find your creative voice, tap into your inner child, because we need to make messes in order to find out who we are and why we are here. And by extension, what we're supposed to be creating. So once you are being obvious and making a lot of messes, there's only one thing left to do. Keep creating work. This is the not so secret to pretty much everything. Keep creating work and be patient. It's the key for finding your creative voice, for finding career success in documentary filmmaking, and it's also how I think about my process here on YouTube as I put out this video, which is the 43rd week in a row that I've put out a video. Now, if you remember the dragon and treasure metaphor that I started the video with, when it comes to my filmmaking, I feel like the dragon is in the form of a pressure to be great at everything I do and everything I create. It's actually one reason why YouTube has been a good challenge for me. I just don't have the time to worry about every video being great when I'm putting out videos every week. My dragon can also come in the form of distraction, which usually comes in the form of being so competitive that I try to beat other people at their game, even if it means completely getting off of my own game. And my dragon also can grow bigger because as a DP, I'm often filming in a way someone else wants, that I don't often take the space and time to think about ways that I want to express my feelings through film. The way I think about getting past the dragon into the treasure chest of creativity is I just keep showing up day after day. I keep creating. And every time I do, it gets easier to show up the next time and get past the dragon. As we wrap up this video on how to find your voice, one last thing I want to leave you with is creativity is often fueled by unstructured play and daydreaming and breaks, but it's also a discipline. You have to make space for it. You have to do the work. That's why in the metaphor, there's a dragon guarding the treasure, because you need to actively get past it. You need to actively get past the distractions and time sinks. You need to get past the insecurities of making something that other people might not think is good or might laugh at. Creativity is an action, and you need to take action to harness it. It's not coming to you. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. It really helps me get a sense of what is resonating with you. I'll meet you in the comments, and then I'll see you next week on the next video. Until then, go out and tell some stories.